This is a continuation of videos 40 and 41 in which I go over Rosy Cross and twice 11 codes in Venus and Adonis, Lucrece, the Sonnets, and the 1611 King James Bible, all being what I believe are productions of the Rosicrucians. Now we're looking at the First Folio and the codes continue. Alexander Waugh does a breakdown of the To the Reader poem in his video Ben Jonson Knew. I'm just going to go over 3 examples of twice 11. Everything centers around the TWO 2 acrostic. The poem begins with the words, "this figure," followed by a comma. In math, a figure is a number. So, in addition to the figure or engraving of William Shakespeare on the opposite page, the poem is drawing attention to this figure, meaning the 2, which also ends with a comma. 2 and this figure are demarcated by commas forming the shape of a Mason square. Here the commas let us know what to include, and counting the characters along the top, there are 11. 11 times 2, the number printed along the acrostic, is 22. That's the first one. Again, everything's centered around this figure 2. If we count from where this starts to where everything ends, or from the beginning of the poem to the end with the initials, there are 11 lines. 11 times 2 is twice 11 a second time. The third comes from the simple gematria value of the initials, BI. B is equal to 2 and I is equal to 9, adding up to 11. Multiply again by this figure 2 and it's 22. Ben Jonson has another poem later in the folio where he spelled his name out. Here, though, it's only his initials, which are also the initials for Boaz and Yakin, the pillars of Freemasonry. That's 3 times twice 11s encoded into the To the Reader poem. In other videos, I've pointed out some things that may have been encoded into the engraving, including this. Beneath the Shakespeare mask are 2 lines that look similar to a Gemini symbol. In addition to a Gemini meaning a twin or a double, I wonder if the Gemini also served as a twice 11 symbol. A Roman numeral 2 is comprised of a 1 and 1, which is 11. So, in addition to it meaning a double or a stand-in for the actual artist, could the Gemini beneath the face of Shakespeare also be symbolizing that he's an invention of this twice 11 order? On the page following the engraving is the dedication epistle. I try to deconstruct what's here in video 28, but right now I'm just going to point out again that there's a twice 11 code at the start of the page. Following the opening words, "to the most noble," there are 22 letters before the word brethren. So hidden within the opening words, it's "to the most noble, twice 11 brethren." A few pages later is a 22-line poem to Shakespeare by Leonard Digges. An interesting note is that John Dee was the guardian of his father, mathematician and astronomer Thomas Digges, so who knows what Leonard may have learned from his father. There's been some debate over who the initials IM stand for in the next poem. I think it might be a simple gematria puzzle. The letter I uses the same character as the number 1. The gematria value of the letter M is 12. If it's read in the way I'm presenting it, IM is 1, 1, 2, or 11 times 2, which equals 22. These poems are the only 2 in the folio that are signed using initials, and they both seem to be part of a twice 11 code. A couple pages later we get to the plays, and it's here I need to make a correction. After my initial posting of the name twice 11 brethren, which I'd first found in the Bible, Sean O'Donovan commented that the word brethren is printed 22 times in the folio. Since then, I've been doing the count wrong, and fortunately Patrick Jennings, who posts under the name The Amazing Mystico, caught the mistake, and together we were able to get it sorted out. Originally, by the count I was getting from my word processor, there were 15 examples of brethren and 7 examples of brethren with an E in the middle. This is incorrect. Once the plays begin, brethren appears 16 times and brethren appears 6 times. There is 1 example of brethren's plural, but we're only counting brethren singular. So if you count each example of brethren, singular spelling, there are 22 or twice 11 brethren in the plays of the folio. Looking at the poem by Ben Jonson, before it begins, there are 17 words and 4 capital letter T's, with the 4th T at the start of the poem. 174T. 1740 is a number discovered by Alexander Waugh, believed to be associated with Edward de Vere. In video 40, I showed how the letters RT, initials for Rosy Cross, were used throughout Venus and Adonis and Lucrece. When I got to the sonnets, they weren't only using the rho tau initials, which are equal to 17 and 19, but also RC, equal to 17 and 3. RC are initials the Rosy Cross used on the cover of their publications. In Sweet Swan of Avon, Peter Amundsen demonstrates how the gematria values of the letters RC are used here in the Ben Jonson poem. The first 2 publications of the Rosy Cross were Fama Fraternitatis and Confessio Fraternitatis, later called the Fame and Confession. Counting from the beginning of the poem, fame is the 17th word. 3 words later is confess. Again, 17 and 3 are equal to the letters RC, initials for Rosy Cross, who published the Fame and Confession. A few pages after the poem is The Tempest, the first play in the folio. I already went over some of this in video 38, but I want to point out a couple more things. First, there is a Rosy Cross on the page, also found by Peter Amundsen. It's right here with this T on line 17. In video 39, I was able to show how 1740 was encoded 3 times on the frontispiece of the King James Bible. In the inscription, the offset OT represents a starogram, a Tauro cross, which some believe inspired the symbol of the Rose Cross. It has a loop offset to the right arm of the T. The letters of the starogram are rho tau, initials for Rosy Cross, but in the inscription, the loop is the offset O, representing the rose, printed above the T, which is the cross. What Peter Amundsen discovered is this OT is a rose cross that uses the initials RC. When you replace the O or rose with an R and the T or cross with a C, there's an acrostic message. Arcadia, lie there my art. This gets into Peter's theories on Oak Island and where the work or art of Shakespeare is buried. Please see his documentaries to learn more about this. I just want to show that there's a Rosy Cross code on the page that uses the same OT character in the Bible inscription. There's more along this acrostic which I go over in video 38, but I think there may be a hint at Edward de Vere's name. There's the F. Bacon acrostic Amundsen found, but if you count 22 or twice 11 lines beginning with the Rose Cross T on line 17, there are 4 T's. Next to that 4th T, it might spell Edward Vere. Looking closer at the line, following the 4th T are the letters H-E-V-E-R-Y. He, spelled H-E-H, or H-E, is the 5th letter in Hebrew. It's where the Greek epsilon E and the Latin E come from, which are also the 5th letters in both of those alphabets. The letter Y is pronounced E. Replacing he with the letter E and Y with the letter it sounds like when it's pronounced H-E-V-E-R-Y translates to E-V-E-R-E, E-Vere. So we have a rose cross with the cross on line 17. Beginning with that cross, there are twice 11 lines and 4 T's. There's an F. Bacon acrostic, and following the 4th T, we can spell the name E. Vere. I'm not saying that whenever the words the Vere appear, it means Edward de Vere, but I think it might here because of the way everything's been typeset. We're still in the comedies, page 59, which is misprinted as 51. This is a Rosy Cross cipher number. 51 is 17 times 3. 17 is equal to R, 3 is equal to C, which are initials for Rosy Cross. In video 40, I showed how in Venus and Adonis, Lucrece, and the Sonnets, that codes are set up 17 lines or words following the word will. Here on line 33, will is spelled out with a double V. 17 lines later, we land on the words Ford, I, and an ox too. Both the proofs are X. The first thing to notice is that on the 17th line there are 40 characters. Following the word to is a colon comprised of 2 dots or points. Often colons are counted as 2, and when we do that here, there are 40 characters. After Ford, it reads, I and an ox too. Here the letter I is used for I, A-Y, or A-Y-E, meaning yes. Capital letter I uses the same character as the Roman numeral for 1. If you count up all the capital letter I's or 1's on the page, this one is the 17th. Following it, we're given a hint with the words Ford and an ox. Add an ox to Ford and it's ox Ford. With the 17th I or 1, it's 17 ox Ford. The colon divides the line, and after 17 Oxford, there are 17 letters followed by the word X. Alexander Waz brought to our attention that in ancient or classical Greek, the letter chi or X is equal to 40. EX or X is a homophone of the letter X, so we have 17 letters X or 1740. That's 3 examples of 1740, and they begin 17 lines after will, which follows the same pattern as the Shakespeare poems. There's more going on in this section of the play, but that deals with another subject, which will be part of another video. Now we're looking at page 56 from the Histories, the first part of King Henry IV. This is a well-known page because the name Francis appears 33 times. Baconians like to point out that the letters of the name Bacon add up to 33. What I want to draw your attention to is the Francis on line 17. Notice how Francis is printed on lines 17 and 19. In previous videos I've shown how 17 and 19 are equal to R and T and are used for Rosy Cross codes. In addition to this, what's interesting here are the words printed above and below Francis' name. Precedent and thou art perfect. In the context of the play, a precedent refers to something that went before. However, the word president, which is how it's spelled, is from the late 14th century and means an appointed governor of a province or a chosen leader of a body of persons. Looking around on the internet, I did find examples of the word president being used as a leader of the Rosicrucians. Regarding thou art perfect, I'm wondering if they're referring to the highest level of initiation. Was this typeset to encode a message about Francis Bacon being the leader or president of the Rosy Cross? I'm going to flip back a few pages and look again at a section that I went over in video 38. After I posted it, Patrick Jennings commented on something I missed. There's another F. Bacon acrostic found by Amundsen similar to the one on page 2 of The Tempest, but I was able to figure out that, like The Tempest, it's also part of a 1740 typesetting, and there's a King 1740 code attached to it. What Patrick found is, on line 17 in the second column, it reads, that thou art heir apparent. This is on the exact same line as 1740 in the first column, and is part of the Bacon acrostic, which also has a King 1740 code. With all the other typesetting that's gone on, did this heir apparent line happen by chance? If it was by design, what does it mean? An heir apparent is a person who's first in an order of succession. Then I found after the word heir, king is the 17th word. Now there's something I'm wondering about the word king. In the last video I explained how I think mercy may have been used as a word to indicate the fraternity. In French, mercy is pity, which sounds like the letters PT. These letters look like the Greek characters Rho Tau or RT, which are initials for Rosy Cross. In Latin, the word king is rex, spelled R-E-X. EX is a homophone of the letter X. RX, or Rho Chi, are initials for Rosy Cross. And the gematria values of the letters RX are 1740. 17 in Latin, 40 in Classical Greek. Earlier I showed how the letters EX, meaning X, equals 40 in a 1740 code. And in video 39, 1740 is found by counting the 17 faces of the followers of Christ and the X made by St. Andrew's cross. The books of the New Testament were originally written in Koine Greek, and X or Chi in ancient Greek was equal to 40. I also want to mention that the Greek tau and Latin T come from the Phoenician letter tau, which is an X, and there's an interchangeability with the use of the word cross pertaining both tau and chi, or T and X, because they're both crosses. We use the word cross for the T-shaped structure Jesus was crucified on all the time, so I don't think there should be any problem with anyone agreeing with me that X and T both represent a cross. So, like mercy, is the word king or rex, RX, sometimes used to indicate the Rosy Cross. Is that what the King 1740 codes mean? This leads me to another idea about 1740. A couple videos ago, I explained how God, Vere, and Rosy Cross are found 3 times on the cover of the Sonnets. This got me thinking. The Chi row symbolizes Christ or God, read right to left like Hebrew row Chi equals 1740. Alexander Waz explained in his video Thomas Edwards New how Edward de Vere is 1740, and the Rosy Cross initials RX also equal 1740. In addition to 1740 being Edward de Vere's number, which I believe it is, does the number also represent, I'll call it a trinity, God, Vere, and Rosy Cross? This could also work with the number 740, which doesn't turn up as often, but it is part of some codes I found. Though it has a different gematria value, the Hebrew letter R or Resh looks like a number 7. Could 740 be Resh or R in Hebrew and 40 Chi or X in Greek? If we go with this idea, 740 would be RX, again initials for Rose Cross. 1740 is Edward de Vere's Earl number and 40 or 4T. I first found 740 codes in the King James Bible. If Edward de Vere was heir to the throne, he would have been Edward VII, so I thought 740 would be his king number and 40. Waugh disagreed and pointed out that the letter G, the Masonic letter for God, equals 7 and Vere is 40, so 740 could be God and Vere. If we apply the idea that 7 also resembles the Hebrew letter R and X equals 40, then 740, just like 1740, could be a number representing all 3, God, Vere, and Rosy Cross. And do both numbers also stand for the Rosy Cross initials RX, or Rex, meaning king? The page with the F. Bacon King 1740 acrostic and heir apparent on line 17 has been misprinted as 49. It's actually page 47, and 47 is 7 plus 40, or 740. So is this a king message referring to the Rosy Cross? I went over this a few videos ago, but I want to try to explain it again. On the Rosicrucian diagram of Sophia, there's a delta with the word and 12 circles representing the 12 tribes of Israel. The word is actually 2. One is Urim, Urim, because this symbolizes the breastplate worn by the Israelite high priest, and on the breastplate are what's known as the Urim and Tumim, or some may pronounce them Urim and Thummim. The other word in the delta is Arim, Arum. In Latin, the word aurum, spelled A-U-R-U-M, means gold. But because they're also spelling Urim, the word aurum, meaning gold, is spelled A-R-I-M, pronounced Arum, which sounds like the letters R-M. This means gold because the Urim were on the golden breastplate worn by the high priest, but it's also Arim, spelled A-R-I-M, meaning gold, because the heart is within the breast, and this is the location of Anahata, the heart or sun chakra. Notice it's touching the sun, and above that is a golden circle with a dot, which is an alchemical symbol for gold. As the Urim, the 12 circles represent the 12 tribes of Israel. As the Arim, they represent the 12 gates of the New Jerusalem, the city described by John in Revelation as pure gold. In Revelation, 12 symbolizes completeness. Among other things, this image is depicting the heart transformed into gold through the process of alchemy. Rm is a homophone of the letters Rm. In Latin, R is equal to 17, and in Hebrew, the equivalent letter for M is equal to 40. Rm, 17, and 40. Some might not agree with this interpretation, and that's okay. But if I'm right, then God, gold, Rosy Cross, and Vere are all equivalent to 1740. God through the right-to-left reading of Christ's symbol, Chi-Rho, gold through Rm, Rosy Cross through the initials RX, and Edward de Vere, who discovered the number of his name was 1740. Each of these words, God, gold, Rosy Cross, and Vere, are found in the Sonnet's byline. I know I'm attributing 1740 to several things when it's clear that it pertains to Edward de Vere, but is it exclusively his number? Does it only refer to him? Now, just because I'm able to find the number within other letters and words doesn't necessarily mean that's what was intended. But I keep finding references to God, Vere, and Rosy Cross throughout the Shakespeare works, and I think it's a strange coincidence that these words, as well as the words king and gold, can also have the value of 1740. And if I can figure this out, they certainly could. Whether or not they meant to is another question. That said, I think there's more going on with these codes than just identifying Edward de Vere as Shakespeare. 1740 is de Vere's number. I believe Alexander Waugh's been able to prove that. But we also get 1740 when Chi-Rho's read right to left and from the gematria values RX. So when de Vere followed John Dee's instruction and discovered the number of his name, he may have also connected himself to God and the Rosy Cross. This is from the English translation of the Femen Confession of the Fraternity of the Rosy Cross, published in London in 1652 by Thomas Vaughan. Originally, these appeared as two separate publications, Fama Fraternitatis in 1614 and Confessio Fraternitatis in 1615, both published in Kassel, Germany. According to Manly Hall, for more than a century prior, the order distributed tracts and manifestos under either its own name or the names of various initiated members. It's also been said that Fama Fraternitatis was circulating in manuscript as early as 1610. Their initials here, RC, are equal to 17 and 3, but there might be something hidden within the words Fraternity of RC, commonly of the Rosy Cross. First, count the initials and the letters of those words those initials stand for, RC and Rosy Cross. Each single dot or point is counted, explaining why colons were used instead of periods. Altogether, there are 17 characters. Next, count all the characters, except now the colon is counted as a single character, and the comma, which isn't a dot or point, isn't counted. Altogether, it totals 40. A comma resembles the Hebrew character Yod, which translates to the letter I. I is the first letter of God's name, Yod He Vav He, and Isis, or Jesus. Are God, Vere, and Rosy Cross hidden within Fraternity of RC, commonly of the Rosy Cross, with de Vere being connected to both through the number 1740? This was by the London branch of the Rosy Cross, published 50 years after de Vere's passing, and if they were honoring de Vere through 1740, I imagine it to be for reasons other than that he was Shakespeare. Maybe he was the initial leader of the London branch, a role that Francis Bacon would later assume. Or was it for another reason, yet unknown? One more item I want to go over. This is the statue of Shakespeare at Westminster's. In his video, Scandal at the Abbey, Waugh explains how 1740 can be found 3 times, one of which is here. In the shape of a Mason square, like the twice 11 code in the To the Reader poem. The scroll begins with 17 letters, and along the acrostic are 4 T's. On Francis Bacon websites, you'll see that the number of letters within the scroll add up to 157, which is the gematria value of the name Fra Rosy Cross, the letters F-R-A short for fraternity. Notice that Shakespeare is pointing to the word temples. The line reads, "the solemn temples," obviously alluding to Solomon's temple. Like many others, I believe the Rosicrucians were, or believe they were, a descendant order of the Templars, who derived their name from the Temple of Solomon. This engraving is called the Temple of the Rosy Cross by Theophilus Schweigert. It may also be the temple being referred to in the Shakespeare scroll. In the scroll, the word temples is being pointed to with the finger over the letter S. Counting the letters up to that letter S, again the finger's pointing over it, there are 51 letters. Like I showed earlier, 51 is 17 times 3. 17 equals R, 3 equals C, initials for Rosy Cross. A third rose cross is found with the letter P over the T in temples. The Latin letter P looks just like a Greek R, making a starogram, also called a taro cross, which is an R or rho drawn over a T. So, counting the number of letters up to and including the word temples, which is being pointed to, there are 51. The fingers over the letter S, the 51st letter. 51 is 17 times 3. 17 is equal to R, 3 is equal to C, initials for Rosy Cross. The letter P, which resembles the Greek rho, is drawn over the letter T in temples, making a tau cross. Rho tau are also initials for Rosy Cross. In total, the scroll is 157 letters. The numerical value of the name, Fraternity of the Rosy Cross. That's Rosy Cross 3 times. There's also 3-letter G's, the Masonic initial for God, in the shape of a right triangle, another Masonic symbol. We find something similar on page 173 of Richard III. Like 51, 173 conceals Rosy Cross initials. 17 is equal to R, 3 is equal to C. I go over some De Vere codes on this page in video 37. Right now, I want to point out the 3-letter G's printed in a right triangle, just like in the Shakespeare scroll. Also, if we count right to left, beginning with the first G, which is the only G with a colon, there are 17 letters before the word rho, spelled R-O-W. 17 is equal to R and rho in Greek. After the word cross, there are 10 letters. In Roman numerals, 10 is X. RX are initials for Rosy Cross. The word cross row, read right to left just like the initials, is rho cross. So we have 3 references to the Rosy Cross and a right triangle comprised of 3-letter G's. The same is found on the Westminster scroll. Now, did Oxford find the number of his name and connect to God and the Rosy Cross through 1740, or is it just a coincidence that all 3 share the same number? I don't know. It's just something I've been thinking about because the 3 keep turning up together in the Shakespeare works. Waugh found an illustration showing how the monument is really supposed to be seen. Originally, there were 17 iron bars or spears that ran along the front. Unfortunately, when you see the monument now, they're not there. Waugh figured out that the stance Shakespeare is in makes a 4 and an X. In Roman numerals, X is 10. 4x, or 4 times 10, is 40. Add the 17 original spears, and it's 1740. If you were to look at the monument from the back, it would appear as Chi-Rho, a symbol for God. It also makes 2 letters, Rho Chi or RX, initials for Rosy Cross. Chi-Rho, read right to left, and the initials RX both equal 1740. Is the memorial telling us that Shakespeare was the creation of God, the Rosy Cross, and Edward de Vere? I'm going to close with an amendment to the Fiat Lux code I explained in the first video and in video 38. There's a message in the marked sonnet numbers 9, 10, 18, 122 and the catchword OR. When the gematria values of the marked sonnet numbers are decoded, they spell the letters YIHIOR and KI. Yehi or is Hebrew and means fiat lux, or let there be light, taken from God's first spoken words in Genesis. The OR is shared, and I thought the remaining letters KI and RO were spelling Cairo or Kiro, the first two letters of Christos. This is where the Cairo or Kiro symbol comes from. I know Kiro is spelled CHIRHO, but the letters serve as homophones. KI has the same pronunciation as CHI. I know some people have a problem with this because of the spelling. I found this online from a mid-19th century text. Check out the pronunciation of CHI. It explains that CHI is pronounced like key, spelled KI. The thing is, I don't think the message is Yehi or Christos like I've been saying all this time. Now I think it's Yehi or Ro Ki or Ro Kai, which are initials for Rosy Cross. X or Ki spelled CHI has the same pronunciation as KI spelled Kappa Iota. If you say Yehi or Ro Ki in your mind or pronounce it out loud, you're saying fiat lux or let there be light, and the initials for Rosy Cross. For more details about the next part of the message and why it's spelled this way, please see the first video or video 38. I'm working on a video which will include a page from the First Folio that has some of the last codes of the book and are among the most revealing. It's pretty extraordinary. As always, thank you to Alexander Waugh, Christopher Johnson, who posts under the name Nobody Oxfordian, and to Patrick Jennings, who has a blog, Hidden Messages in Shakespeare. I'll leave a link in the description below. And thank you for watching.